New York City's blaming Texas for the illegal alien crisis. It's April 11, 2024, and these are your headlines. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security secretly approved the arrival of 33,000 illegal aliens directly into New York City. That's according to a senior fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, Todd Bensman. He explained that this 33,000 figure makes up 22% of New York City's estimated illegal alien population, and U.S. taxpayers are being forced to finance these trips. Meanwhile, around 25% of New York City's estimated 150,000 illegal aliens were brought from Texas. Well, that means New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been out there continually blaming Texas Governor Greg Abbott for the situation rather than President Joe Biden, whose administration has authorized the influx. DHS has approved flights for almost 400,000 illegal aliens traveling all over the U.S., with Florida being the main landing port. According to Bensman, the federal government relies on a large-scale use of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows a president to grant temporary humanitarian parole into the country of immigrants in emergency situations on a case-by-case basis. Well, meanwhile, here in Texas, Senate Bill 4, a Texas law making it a state crime for individuals to enter the country illegally, well, that's currently, of course, on hold. That law is pending further review by the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has announced his interim charges for the Senate, a set of 57, count them 57 issues, that's a lot. He's calling on Senate committees to investigate and research ahead of the legislative session next year. Now, the list of charges runs the gamut of issues conservatives have called on the legislature to address. These include things like property tax relief, protecting Texas land from hostile foreign ownership, and strengthening laws to prevent electioneering by school districts and other political subdivisions. Some of the biggest reform proposals in Dan Patrick's interim charges have been reserved for higher education. He asked the Higher Education Subcommittee to study and make recommendations regarding the role of faculty senates, anti-Semitism on college campuses, as well as to review the implementation of a new state law banning DEI in state universities that went into effect earlier this year. Lieutenant Governor Patrick said the Senate's work to study the list of charges will begin in the coming weeks and months. Following the completion of their hearings, committees will submit reports with their specific findings and policy recommendations before December 1st of this year. He also added that come January 2025, the Senate will hit the ground running at the start of the 89th legislative session. The priorities of the conservative majority of Texans will be accomplished, including school choice, continued property tax relief, and strengthening the power grid. He also noted that he could release an additional, albeit shorter, list of extra interim charges before the session begins next year. House Speaker Dade Phelan, meanwhile, has not yet released his list of interim charges. He might be a little busy, of course, as he's currently fighting for his own political survival in a runoff election.
They've been called the Texas Kingmakers. They're the biggest political force in the Lone Star State, and most Texans have no idea who they are, what they want, or even that they exist. Hubris, the Texas Kingmakers, a documentary by Texas Scorecard, coming April 17th.
Lastly, a new analysis of the city of Dallas shows that the city's currently $6.9 billion in debt. Reported by the Dallas Express, based on calculations from Truth in Accounting, Dallas's debt has increased by $3.2 billion from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2023. Earlier this month, the Dallas Express also looked into how much burden is being placed on individual taxpayers. The report showed that the taxpayers' burden in 2023 amounted to about $18,110 per person, almost double what it was in 2022. It was $9,600. According to Truth in Accounting's metrics, the new data places the city with a grade of a very low D, almost nearing a grade of F. The D grade on the taxpayer burden scale ranges from $5,000 to $20,000. After reviewing the City of Dallas's annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2023, Truth in Accounting determined that Dallas had $2.9 billion to pay approximately $9.9 billion in bills, which led to the $6.9 billion shortfall. The updated analysis ranks Dallas 69th of the 75 major cities in the nation for taxpayer debt burdens. New Orleans, Portland, Philadelphia, Honolulu, Chicago, and New York City are the 6 other cities that scored worse than Dallas. It's been estimated that the Dallas Police and Fire pension system has approximately $3.5 billion in unfunded liabilities, despite the Dallas Police Department struggling with a staffing shortage. Andrew McVeigh, the president of Texas for Fiscal Responsibility, told Texas Scorecard that the debt being racked up by cities like Dallas is reckless and frankly dangerous. He said Texans must demand accountability and fiscal responsibility from their local elected officials so we can reverse this disastrous record. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.